Hello, and welcome to At All Hours. I'm your host, Greg Ramirez. This is episode number 17. We made it this far, almost legal. I'm going to start this episode over. Just kidding. Episode 17, that's pretty crazy. Not that it's, so significant or substantial. We're still technically in season 1, if you fucking believe that. But it is pretty crazy to think that at least 17 of these episodes have come out. Well, this is going to be 17. But thinking back to other things that, if we could reminisce for a second, play some reminiscing music. Just kidding. I'm not going to put anything in. To think back to other podcasts that I did, or just other projects that I did. I mean, to get to episode 17, I feel like it's a big deal. I feel like you're going to say that every single episode. And then when episode 20 comes, that's going to be season 2. I'm going to be like, I didn't even think we would make it to a second season. I didn't think we would get picked up again for a second season. But here we are at season 2. Well, that's what I would say at season 2. But we're in season 1. Anyway, season 1. You hear my ice maker again? Shout out to my ice maker. And Chiwiwi's here too. Shout out to Chiwiwi's. Who Chiwiwi, that's not her name, by the way. We'll get into that. I don't want to spoil some potential guests upcoming, okay? I don't want to spoil it, right? Chiwis? I'm not trying to spoil it, but we may or may not be having a certain tiny guest sometime soon. But since we're reminiscing, we're thinking back all the way back to episode 1, I guess. I wanted to talk about something that I was thinking about earlier today because I was coming home from work. It's winter right now in Southern California. Well, everywhere, but right now it's cold. Well, it's not. It was like 80 degrees the past couple days because that's the way it is in Southern California. It's like 80 degrees for most of winter, quote unquote, and then it gets really fucking cold for a while, and then it's like summer again, whatever. But it gets dark. So it's been getting dark at like 4:30 or like 5 o'clock. It's already like black outside. And I was coming home from work at my job. And as I was driving, I have like little things to chew on. I have what's called an oral fixation. Okay? An oral fixation. That's what I have. Sorry, okay? So I have toothpicks that I chew on. Sometimes, if I'm a little hungry, I get little snacks from my car. One of my favorite snacks is nuts. Okay? This isn't a joke. This isn't a setup for a joke, or this isn't like a long-running joke or anything. Like, I get nuts. Okay? I like having nuts to snack on. And when I'm eating these nuts, it comes with like a little lid. Right? They're little Blue Diamond nuts. Blue Diamond Phillips. Is that his name? The guy from that one movie? Whatever. So, Blue Diamond Phillips nuts. It's like a little container and has a little lid on it. So as I was driving, eating these nuts, you have to take the little lid off. So I put it to the side, and I was eating these nuts, and I was done, right? I was filled, you might even say. And as I was driving, it's pitch black outside, so I couldn't see where I threw the lid because I just took it off. I was so eager to eat these nuts that I just took the lid off and threw it somewhere in my car. And I turned on the light inside my car while I was driving. I found it, capped up these nuts, and put it to the side. And it made me remember suddenly that when I was a kid, my parents would tell me it's like illegal to have the light on inside the car while you're driving at night. And I always thought that was like actually illegal. And then when I got older, everyone thought that. Everyone had the same experience to the point where it became almost like a meme for people, I guess, my age, to have the same experience. Like, where like I didn't even have my own childhood. Everyone had the same childhood as me. My parents said that we would get arrested if I even had the light on in the car. And then it's like, it made me think of like other myths too, where it's like, you have the light on in the car, it's illegal. Sit too close to the TV, you turn blind. If you talk back, it turns you gay. It's like all these different things that our parents told us growing up that you don't really think about until you're older and you realize like, oh shit, like it's not illegal to just have your light on. It's impairing, like, for sure. When like driving with the light on, it's horrible because you can't fucking see anything. When it's like pitch black outside and then you're driving, you have a light on inside. Oh my god, you guys hear my fucking ice maker? I'm gonna go turn my ice maker off. This thing, I'm gonna go throw it into the ocean. I'll be right back. Okay, I went and I turned off my ice maker, and it turns out that's not my ice maker making that noise. It's the water heater in my kitchen. Um, I can't turn that off, or I don't know how. If there is a way to turn it off, I don't know how. I unplugged the ice maker though, because it was being a little bitch about everything, and it's like, I think now's the time to make more ice, and just dropped fucking ice everywhere. It's pissing me off. Do you think if I stabbed a hole into the water heater, it would alleviate some of that pressure? Probably, right? I couldn't imagine it being a bad thing. So anyway, I remember all these myths growing up, it's weird because, like, how is it possible that we all didn't have the same childhood but also had the same childhood growing up? We all heard the same things. It was like the same little myths that we heard, like, oh, don't sit too close to the TV or you'll be blind. Don't make that face or it'll stay like that. Which, it kind of makes sense now. It's just kind of like being an adult. And you're like, well, it's something that I heard, so I'm just going to kind of pass it on. Or it's like you hear it from other people and it just kind of like gets collectively, Now it's like, if you keep your little iPad close to your face, you'll get autism or something. I don't know. It's probably going to change now in the next couple generations, but things like that. It's like, 20 years from now, some people are going to be like, whoa, we had the same childhood. That's so crazy, And they have their iPads with their little OtterBox on it, kicking their little legs. It's one of my favorite jokes to make. I don't know why, but I always thought that was kind of weird, and I was thinking about it earlier, and I'm like, well, you know what? Now that I'm older, I did rebel a lot, and I did sit too close to the TV, and now I'm blind, my palms are hairy, and I'm gay. Turns out my parents were right about everything. Turns out we didn't all have the same childhood, but my parents were right about everything. That shit pisses me off. But I want to continue to reminisce. Do you guys mind? Do you mind if I reminisce for a minute? I'm also, next month I turn 32. So if you're not even within like 5 years of the same age as me, then you're probably not going to be able to reminisce with me, because when I reminisce, you probably weren't alive. Which brings me to something that I thought about recently. That is something that was a like very particular thing that I experienced and that I've watched when I was a kid. That I don't watch TV anymore. I mean, most people don't watch TV. Like, like you sit down and watch TV shows and commercials, and it's like everything's streamed. Everything's on. If you want to watch a certain show, they usually stream it now. You don't even have to sit and watch regular TV. Ew, dude, what? You just watch TV and then commercials come on and you just watch them and then you wait? You wait your turn to continue. Oh, now you can continue watching. Why don't you just pay to skip that part? And then they're like, "Well, I pay to watch cable. I'm already paying for it." So you pay for cable and you watch ads still? You hear all this stuff that's happening in my kitchen right now. Okay. So anyway, growing up, I watched a lot of TV. Everyone watched TV. That's all there was. There was the internet, but it wasn't the way the internet is now. So like, let's say like 20 years ago, I was about to be 12. The sounds in the background are so distracting. You guys might not even hear it. It just sounds like there's like a meat grinder grinding the bones of innocent people. Not that I would know what that sounds like, but it sounds like a giant machine grinding the bones of innocent people, and their bones are cracking and snapping as they're being turned into mulch. Some of them are going to be put into fields, and the ones that don't degrade that quickly or don't crack and break down, they will be put into vats and then poured out at a different time and location. So one of the things I used to watch, like I said, I watch TV all the time. One of the things was reruns, which is kind of crazy to think that, like, people would just put on a show and then they were like, "Oh, this episode came on again and I'm just going to watch it again." Instead of choosing, now it's like you could just choose to watch whatever the fuck you want to watch. If you want to rewatch the same episode, go for it. Which is kind of like, now that I think about it, is like pretty wild that people do that. You have like a full scope of like new things you can experience, and so a lot of people just watch the same thing, like comfort shows. That's like something that's like pretty new, I think, or at least like it's something that's new to me, which is the idea of like a comfort show or a comfort movie where you just watch it over and over and over again. A comfort show is a little different because now we have like streaming and stuff, whereas before you had to buy it on like DVD. And now people just watch it whenever. They could just stream it. And it's on Netflix and fucking Hulu, HBO, whatever. But one of the things that I had experienced a lot watching reruns was something called pop-up video. And if you're like 5 years younger than me, you probably won't know what that is. But pop-up video was a show that would come on, or like not even like a show. It's just like a thing that would happen. Okay, that's way too vague too. that's not. But cut that out. Cut that out of the episode. It's like they would air a rerun on a certain channel, and it would be under this like pop-up video thing. I think, I don't remember. Like I said, I don't fucking look into this shit ever. And they would air the episode. And through the episode, little pop-ups on the screen would come up where it would be like, let's say it was like an 80s show. It would be like this little like 80s kind of pop-up, and it would be like a little fun fact or trivia or whatever it is. It could be like, oh, it shows like the exterior of like a high school, right? And then it's like like that's where the show takes place. It's like or at least this scene. It shows the exterior of a high school, and they're like, it pops up and it goes, this shot was actually shot in Santa Cruz, California at this school, whatever. And then as you go through the episode, it shows like a new character, and it's like, this is their first on air appearance as this, that. And they would go on to create this show and this movie and whatever else. And it was so like of its time, because it's like you couldn't watch like a YouTube video now and then rewatch a YouTube video with like little pop-ups like that where it just says like, you'd just be like, well, I just want to know. Like they have like there's like video essays now that just break down stuff and be like, well, we'll explain the trivia to you. We'll explain everything that happened, all these little fun facts and tidbits and titillations. We'll break it down for you, right? And that was one of those weird things that I remember watching when I was a kid. I have a really distinctive memory being at one of my old houses when I lived in Pico Rivera. And there was a night where I was I never really gave a fuck about the Brady Bunch, but I'm pretty sure there was a Brady Bunch pop-up video that I watched, and I think it was like maybe during summer, because I think all the windows were open in my house, and it was hot, and I remember sitting on the floor of my living room, like with my back against the couch, watching pop-up video of the Brady Bunch at like a beach, or like the Brady Bunch goes to Hawaii. The Brady Bunch visits Hiroshima. Like, I don't know what the episode was, but I remember something like that. It was like a pop-up video of like the Brady Bunch goes, AWOL. I don't know. But I always thought that was kind of crazy because thinking back to pop-up video, it's just kind of like an obsolete thing. Like, pop-up video just couldn't really exist now because there's just better ways to do it. If it's like you wanted some like trivia or knowledge, you could just look it up for starters. Now it's way different. Like the internet's way more accessible. But like before, they had these little fun things, a little fun trivia, little fun facts that would pop up. And now you're not going to rewatch the whole thing just to see little trivia bits. You're going to, if you like something, you'll just watch a video essay on someone who breaks it down for like 3 hours of like all the little tidbits and fun facts about the time that the Brady Bunch went to visit Hiroshima, Do you think about that? Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Anyway, I could still hear all the fucking popping and crackling and shit from my water heater. You know what just happened to me and Andy recently? I've been drinking all night. In case I'm slurring, I'm sorry. In case I start just saying a bunch of slurs, I'm sorry in advance. That's why. It's because I'm hammered. But speaking of being hammered, Andy and I went out to a bar in Monrovia, which is really far or really close to where I live, depending on whether or not you know where I live. But if you do know where I live, then you know it's actually hundreds of miles from where I live. But we went to a bar in Monrovia, and we just actually went to just go walk around and kind of see if there was like a spot that seemed kind of cool. Walked past a few different spots, and they were all like whatever. And we happened to stop in at one place, and it was like, the place seemed pretty cool. I actually don't even remember the name of it. I might remember what it's called, but I don't care enough to be like, to even remember it or like to look it up. Like, it doesn't really matter. But we went in, and I remember just thinking, I just really want a good beer on tap. You know, nice. It's cold outside. Nice cold beer in a cold glass. Some good frothy head, you know? Just that fucking absolute dank, frothy, sloppy ass head, you know? Just gagging on it, kind of frothy head. Anyway, and we went into this place and it seemed cool. We sat down. Some chick came up to us and was like, "Hey, here's the menu." I'm like, "All right." And I was like, "Okay, well, I want this." And Andy was like, "Okay, well, I want that." She came back up and was like, "Are you guys ready to order?" "Yeah." And then we ordered our beers, which were on tap. And she goes, all of our tap beers are not an option tonight because our pipes froze." And I was like, "What?" She goes, "Yeah, our all of our pipes are frozen right now, so we can't tap any of the beer." So what we're doing though is we're serving bottled beer. If you want a bottled beer or anything like that, or if you want a cocktail, we can make that for you. Just let us know. I'll give you a couple minutes. And she walked away. And I'm thinking like, okay, cocktail, sure, but I wanted to come and get like a tap beer. And she's like, "We don't have tap beer, but we have bottled beer." And it's like, fine, I get it, but anyone that drinks beer knows if you're like, "Well, I want like man, like a beer right now sounds good. I'm gonna go to a bar to get a beer." And you go to a bar to get a beer on tap. It's just it does not compare. Like a bottled beer does not compare to a tap beer. I'm passionate about this too. I'm what some people might even call an alcoholic, right? So to go to a bar and be like, "Hey, I want a beer. I came here for a beer." And they're like, "We have it on bottles." And I'm like, "What? On bottles?" "Yeah, we only have it in bottles. We have that exact beer in a bottle though, not on tap." And oh no, Clementine's going pee. Clementine, you better not. Good girl, Clementine. Good baby. Oh my gosh, you took the most atrocious shit right now. Oh my god. No. Oh my god. Clementine just took a shit that smells like Taco Bell that went bad in my car. I was just gonna try to power through it. So anyway, we went to this bar. We went to this bar and they were trying to give us other beer. Oh my god. Do you only eat shit? Is that all you eat is shit? Oh my gosh, you didn't even cover it up all the way. So we went to this bar and we tried to get beer and the taps were frozen and they were only giving us bottles. Oh my god. Oh my god. I'm not gonna throw up. Okay, editor, pause it. Great. There's not going to be any editing music in there. There's not going to be anything that you could even tell. It's just going to be a cut. Because my editor's a lazy piece of shit. Just kidding. Only because I'm saying that I don't want any cuts in it. That's why nothing's going in. Normally the editor would put in some stuff, but we're not going to. Also, those little scratching noises, the like, that was Clementine, like, kicking the litter up to cover her piss and feces. And it turns out she didn't fucking cover anything. And it was just a fucking fat log sitting there, exposed to the air. Have you ever shit on, like, into exposed air? I'm waiting. Because normally when you go to the bathroom, right, you take a shit, you go caca, you shit into a tub of water, right? A bowl, a bathtub. Normally, like all of us, we go and we shit into a bathtub. We all do it, right? And it immediately goes into water, and it dilutes the scent. It's horrible. But that's the thing. When you take a shit, normally it goes into water. It's not exposed to the air that long. It sits in this like pool of water, which is disgusting, but it also is like, it's different if you shit onto, let's say, on top of cat litter and not bury it. Okay, Clementine, if you're listening to this, I just don't really appreciate it. Also, I have to have the door open now, so if you hear like dogs barking and gunshots and a bunch of alarms and helicopters outside, sorry, but I was, you can probably hear that right now. I was not gonna be fucking with that cat shit smell just a couple of feet away from me. I just couldn't handle it. Also, as soon as I opened the door, I realized how many like police sirens and alarms are going on outside, which is pretty crazy. But I don't even live in a bad area. I don't think it's not a bad area, but whatever, right? Let's go back to what we were talking about. We were reminiscing, right? We were talking about the shit that our parents told us that would turn us gay or blind. Pop-up video, the Brady Bunch. I remember Full House. I used to watch Full House a lot. When I was a kid, I was like a teenager. I was maybe like 12 years old. I discovered myself to DJ Tanner, who was also my age at the time. Who's I think like old, like in her 40s now, and then like at the time I was like, oh wow, I got a huge crush on her. I didn't realize I was like 15 years too late. I was like, maybe I have a chance. So yeah, I'm likely. But one of the things that also I reminisce about is something that I also feel like is, it's not like necessarily an age thing, but it kind of is, but it's also more specifically not just an age thing, but where I live personally. Because I don't just live in like Southern California. I don't live like in like deep in LA. But there was the indoor swap meet that I used to go to when I was a kid. It was like in Downey, Pico Rivera. I think it was Downey technically. But I used to go to the indoor swap meet all the time when I was a kid. And it's not there anymore. I actually don't know what's there now. I don't know if it's just like a fucking shitty warehouse or corporate building now, but it's somewhere that I grew up going to all the fucking time. And it's such a place that like has one of those like weird memories attached to it, that it's even got its own like scent to it. When you would walk in, like you wouldn't know what I'm talking about unless you went to the indoor swap meet, because it always smelled, first of all, it always smelled like hot dogs, like it was like carnival food, right? It was like nachos, hot dogs, popcorn, and like that's the way it always smelled, because there was like little areas that would sell that. And if you don't know what like a swap meet is, what's it like being rich, right? Well, I mean, unless there's swap meets for like rich people. I guess a farmer's market is what it would be called. I don't know. But it was a little swap meet where there was basically a bunch of little vendors inside of a big building. It was instead of it being like outside, you're inside of like a big warehouse. And they had these little areas sectioned off. And it was like fucking just, I don't know, in a warehouse. Okay? Get off my back. And there was a bunch of different areas where they would sell like, it was almost like a little mall, right? It was actually like a mall, but because it was inside, and then they would sell. I remember there was like a little toy section. I think it was in like toward the front, like when you'd walk into the actual entrance area, there was like a big toy section, or not like a section, because there were separate shops. There was like a toy store area, and they sold a bunch of like little fucking bootleg toys and like little chafa ass Power Rangers and shit. And everyone was like, "Mom, mom!" And my mom would always be like, "I don't know if I have $4 right now to spare on some fucking buster ass fucking Power Rangers." But the whole place smelled like hot dogs and like lemon cleaner, like floor cleaner, right? It was awesome. It was the best time I've ever had in my life. But that's one of those things that there was also an area that they sold pets. There's like a little pet store inside of it. It was crazy. Now that I think about it, it's kind of insane. Because you walk in, it smells like leather because they're selling shoes, little botitas. They're selling leather jackets. They're selling chaps. And then you look to your right and there's like a little stand where they're selling toys. Little fucking rip-off, chafa ass fucking Power Rangers and a bunch of other bullshit. And then, or it's like, you know when they sell like Spider-Man, but it's like just like a basic human plastic toy and they painted it like Spider-Man and all of his spider friends. It was like that. Where you could get like 6 Spider-Man toys and they're just like 6 plain plastic figures, but they're all hand painted as like different kind of Spider-Men, you know? Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Anyway, so there's like that area. Then there was like areas where they sold like tires and shit and smell like fucking rubber and tires, I guess. Then the whole thing just consistently smelled like hot dogs and nachos. Then you go to a certain area in the middle where they had like pet stuff. They'd sell like hamsters and snakes and shit. And there was like, that's also like the area where they have like bathrooms. And they'd also have like areas where they have like benches set up where you could sit down and eat your little hot dog or your hamster or whatever the fuck you bought. And then the whole thing smelled like chemical cleaners because they're constantly like mopping the whole place up. It's out of this fucking world, okay? But I have a lot of memories there. I used to go there all the fucking time when I was a little kid. And if anyone knows what I'm talking about, then you know all those scents and memories. Because that was a big part of it. I think having like a scent connected to like a memory or just like a place in general is so strong. That's the way it is for me anyway. I don't know about you. If you're fucking lame and that's not how you interact with the world, it's unfortunate. I'm sorry. But that's the way I've always been. And the only other time that I have like a swap meet kind of story or any story similar to that even is when I went to this is another deep cut if you're not from the area. Okay? If you're from somewhere far away. But there's another swap meet called a Santa Fe Spring swap meet. It's where people get down. Okay? This is also where people have cover bands. Cover bands from all across wherever, you know? And I went, I think it was maybe, I was like 22 or 23 maybe? It was like 10 years ago. Damn. That's like 10 years ago when I was in my 20s. I went to the Santa Fe Springs swap meet with my dad. Shout out to my dad. He's come up. he's he's come up a few times now. I'm just going to shows and stuff. But I went to the Santa Fe Springs swap meet to go see this band. They're a cover band. They're a Led Zeppelin cover band. Do you want to guess what their cover band name was? Unless you already know it, then you might guess it. But if you don't know what their name is, guess what their name is. Led Zeppelin. What would... I think someone's breaking into my house. What would Led Zeppelin's cover band be called? This is where normally I would put in the Jeopardy music. Jeopardy. This is normally where I put in the Jeopardy music, but I'm not going to put any Jeopardy music. Led Zepp again. Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy name. But they're... I remember when I had seen them when I was young. They're really good. It's weird when like cover bands also look like the band that they're covering. I always thought that was kind of weird. Which I get it. Obviously, you're trying to sell the whole experience. It's like if you just sound like someone, you also like you may as well try to look like them. You know, you're a cover band. You're specifically trying to cover this band. You want to look like them because you already sound like them. You know, I get it. It's just kind of weird still. But I remember going, I think I might have been 22 because I was still like really new to like buying drinks, getting beer, and I was still kind of a lightweight when I was a kid. Or I was 21, but I digest. I remember going, I think my mom dropped me and my dad off. This is also like, it's like 1 PM. Because if you've ever been to the Santa Fe Springs swap meet, they have cover bands that play in like the middle of the day. And my dad and I got dropped off. And as soon as we got there, we're like, okay, Led Zeppelin's going to start playing at 1. We should get drinks right now. You're buying the first round. And I was like, all right. So I went and I got us 2 like big cups of like whatever beer. Come back, start drinking them, and we're just like talking and drinking and talking and drinking. They come out and we're already like down to drink, and he's like, you know what, I'm gonna get the second round. He goes, gets his beers, brings them back. We start drinking that, watch the band play. They're awesome. It's like watching Led Zeppelin for real, but instead it's at some small Mexican market. And we just keep doing that all day until it gets to the point where it is like like 5 p.m. because it's like summer. It's like 5 p.m. now or 6 p.m. And I have my shirt off and a bandana wrapped around my head. And we're now like walking around the entire swap meet, just hanging out. And we're looking at other stuff, just kind of sweating out all of the beer that we had while we wait for my mom to come and pick us up. And I just have my shirt tucked in my back pocket, my bandana on, thinking I'm fucking cool. And then my mom picks both of us up, and we have to walk out to the parking lot, and my mom makes fun of us because she thinks that we're not so cool. And yeah, that was I think the first time I went to go see Led Zeppelin again. Well, the first time I went to the Santa Fe Springs Mall, I went to go see a band, and it was pretty crazy. I don't have any other memories or sense attached to that, so sorry if that went on a little too long for you, for your liking. Okay, but you come here to listen to me anyway, so what difference does it make? Okay, why don't you get off my back? Okay, cut the cord, mom. Okay, but that was one thing that I always thought about. But there's something that I always thought also kind of in connection to that, just because of the fact that it was like an outdoor kind of swap meet. thing, they also had like little rides and stuff. It was never anything crazy. It was like little bumper cars or some stupid shit. But it made me think. It made me think of something else that has always bothered me, which is amusement park tragedies versus carnival tragedies. So the thought of going on a roller coaster at, like, let's say uh Universal Studios, Disneyland, Knott's Berry Farm, fine. I'm kind of a wuss when it comes to roller coasters for starters, but fine. They're not so crazy, right? But then the thought of getting, like, when people are like, "Oh, we should go to Six Flags." What are you talking about? That sounds like an actual nightmare to me. I hate going on fucking roller coaster. I don't know why. I have no idea why. I've gone on roller coasters before. Every time after a roller coaster, it's always fun. I was like, let's do it again, whatever. But I'm just not like a big fan of it. I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm not an adrenaline junkie. Maybe I'm just a wuss, little puss boy. I don't know what it is. But I enjoy them. But I also don't go to like amusement parks very often. So when I do go, usually I'm like it's like pretty far and few in between. So when I do go, it's kind of like I'm not always having the best time on like huge roller coasters. But after I kind of pop my little cherry uh, on the first ride, then I'm like, okay, well, it's fine. And then I also don't go alone because I'm not a fucking loser and I have friends, unlike you. And it's always like, you kind of get egged on by your friends. Come on this fucking ride. Come and ride it. You know? So it's always a little easier when you're with your friends and everything. You just kind of do whatever. It's like, it's like when you go on like a roller coaster ride, your friends are like, come on, just come on with us. And you're like, oh, all right, I'll do it. And then people are like, oh, it's like you're stabbing someone to death or whatever after you assaulted them. And you're like, oh, okay, I'll jump in too. And then, or it's like if someone's taking shots and everything, like, take a shot with us. Cool. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, I'll do it too. It's like that kind of camaraderie that comes with it. But like, it's, it's something that I don't always indulge in because I just don't go to amusement parks. Like I don't like plan it out that much. But when I do go, it's always fun. Um, there is a line though, because if I go to an amusement park, like if I go to Universal, if I go to Disneyland, if I go to, which I don't go to Disneyland because Disneyland is a whole other story. I guess quick sidebar. Well, it's not a whole other story. Quick sidebar. When I was a kid, um, I got food poisoning at Disney. I don't know how many times I went to Disneyland as a kid. I don't even remember being at Disneyland when I was a kid when I got food poisoning. I just remember being in the Disney hospital and then have fucking Mickey Mouse telling my mom like, "Whoa, it's terminal." Like it's not. It wasn't a good time for me. Okay, like I remember going. I remember being. I think my actual memory. My mom. My mom. I'm assuming my mom's gonna remember this more than I would. My mom was also a drunk, and so was my dad. But I remember being in just like a little room that was like a little like Disney hospital thing because I got food poisoning. And maybe I need to talk to my parents about that, the whole story, but I did not have a good time at the age that I remember being at Disneyland. And then the time after that, I went for grad night and I was a little sad boy all the time. And I was like 18. And then after that, I didn't go. I just didn't want to. I never had a good experience at Disneyland. I'm not a fucking weird Disney adult. I don't care about Disney stuff. Like I'll watch a Pixar movie, Cool. You know, I appreciate the animation, the story. It's great. It's awesome. It's awesome. But I don't care enough to be like, I need to get like oh my god, there's a new Toy Story thing. There's cars and The Incredibles. It's like, I don't care. Sorry. People think like, oh my god, you're so cynical. You're so bitter. No, I'm a normal adult. You're fucking weird for being a Disney adult. Sorry. That's the reality of it. I'm not bitter and oh my god, why are you so mad about going to Disney? You know why? Because Disney is fucking for children. It's for children. And then when adults go and they bring their kids, awesome. Awesome. It's the same thing you do with anything. Like if you had a kid and you're like, well, I want to show my kid the thing that I'm interested in. For me, like for instance, I play music. Of course, I would want my kid to play music. If they had zero interest in it, okay, whatever. But you want them to experience the things that bring you joy, right? And then you see like a family, well, let's go to Disney. Take this little motherfucker to Disneyland. Show him what's up. Put this little motherfucker on the teacups. Show him Goofy. I don't know what else happens at Disneyland. But you go and you do it because you're a family. It's like you also, as adults, you get to relive your youth. You get to go, oh my god, I remember when I was a kid, I went on Splash Mountain and it made me squirt. I don't give a fuck. If you go to Disneyland and you're just a couple and you're adults, get over it. Or have a kid. Raymond and Erica. It's just weird. It's weird. Sorry. I don't go to Disneyland. I hate Disneyland. Anyway, that was supposed to be a sidebar, but it turned into a real hateful, it came from a place of hate, and I apologize. I shouldn't have been like that. It shouldn't have come from a place of hate. I try to be a different person every day. I try to be better. And they came from a really hateful place, and I apologize. I shouldn't have been like that. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry that I was like that I talked to you like that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you... I'm sorry that... I'm sorry that you go to Disneyland. I'm sorry that you go to Disneyland all the time. And then I make fun of you for that. I'm sorry that you're a fucking child and you go to Disneyland and you're not... Oh my god, I sound so hammered. I'm sorry that you go to Disneyland. Anyway. Just stop. Okay? Okay? I'm not gonna go. Stop inviting me to go to fucking Disneyland, man. I don't want to go. I went earlier this year with because Andy asked me, and we went for. But the thing is, we went for an event, and it was like nighttime. It was for Gay Month, or whatever it's called. I don't fucking know what it's called. We went and we were gay. It was awesome. It was cool because it was just like adults, and then it was at night. It was for like 3 hours, and that was it. I'd rather do that instead of go. I'd rather have less time. I'd rather have less hours than a full day and go to Disneyland. I would go to Disneyland. Anyway, the problem isn't the rides at Disneyland or Universal, or because I'm a little bitch chicken shit about Six Flags. But when those rides fail, oh my god. Are you kidding me? Have you seen videos of people on these rides where the rides like completely fail and they're just like stuck somewhere? Like, that's a fucking nightmare, right? Like, how is that not a complete nightmare to be stuck? I mean, and like the thing is too, Maybe you get compensated for it. Let's just say, oh, you paid for it. Okay, well, we're going to refund you your money for the day. Let's just say it's like you and your partner, right? That go. And depending on where you go, it's like $50 to $100. Let's just say $200 for you and your partner, right? You guys are ready. You guys go have fun. You get stuck on a ride. They're like, look, we're going to compensate you. We'll give you your money back. And you're like, I was suspended in the air for 7 hours. Like, I don't give a fuck about money right now, dude. I'm like, I suddenly developed a phobia that I never had before. And I will continue to have. Keep the $200. Well, I'll keep the $200, but still, fuck you. That's fucked up. Right? Now, that can happen on regular rides. It usually doesn't. I mean, how many people come through every single day in these different amusement parks, on these different rides? How many people really come through? There's a lot of fucking people that come through there. And for it to go wrong occasionally, very rarely, yeah, I'll take those odds, you know? They're pretty safe odds because if you go to a place like that, they regularly maintenance it. They regularly check in on it. They have to check everything. And when something does go wrong, they have stricter and stricter guidelines to go by because it's not that there's not just one Disneyland. There's not just one Six Flags, you know? Like and even if there's like a pretty big amusement park, there's usually like strict guidelines in place because it has its own area established. And if it wants to stay there, they have to abide by these guidelines. But there is something that doesn't abide by those guidelines, which is carnivals and traveling festivals, which is the just worst thing I can think of that exists for rides, right? For instance, like I said, I live in Southern California. In Pomona, there's a yearly festival, okay? And they have like rides set up. They have a bunch of carnival food and all this bullshit. And it's cool. It's super fun. It's way too many people. But there's festivals and carnivals and events and all this different shit through all these counties in Southern California. But there's one in Pomona, and you go there and they have like a bunch of different, crazy, the frog legs that are in this, or deep fried Oreos, deep fried fucking whatever the hell, who cares? And it's just a bunch of shit, a bunch of games, just carnival games, and a bunch of junk food to eat, and beer and food, and good times, right? And a lot of money they usually spend. Turns out frog legs, about $22. Some kettle corn, about $22. The kettle corn to popcorn to frog leg ratio is actually insane. Just gonna put that out there. But one of the things is that at these places they also have rides. Somehow. They also have like roller coasters. Well, usually it's not like roller coasters the way you would imagine like an actual roller coaster, but they have those like big, like those like big pendulums that swing back and forth and that are based on like a weight distribution system. That seems like it would be okay to set up like indefinitely, where you kind of solidify it into the ground and it's weighed out and it actually works every time, versus something that collapses and you can open it, just throw a couple rice bags on each end and then be like, well, we'll just kind of fucking let this fly, see how it goes, That's insane to me. Those like Viking ship ones, It just swings back and forth. How could you get on that? Or those like where it's like Supreme Scream, but it's like smaller because they're like, well, we can't set up that high because we're a fucking traveling circus. So we're going to let people go up like 30 feet. And then people go on there and then all their shit malfunctions and they splatter onto the ground. Or they're in the Viking boat and they're swinging and the whole thing, instead of it going in a straight line, it kind of curves and then it comes out and it goes against the thing that's holding it in place and then it snaps and then people are flying out into the popcorn stands and then it's just blood everywhere and people are getting just smashed everywhere. And it's like, how can you get onto a fucking carnival ride? How can you actually respectfully get into line and be like, especially if you go with like your family or a partner, because you're not going to these events like on your own. What are you, fucking sad? I guess maybe you would go if you're sad, but what are you like? Oh, never mind. Well, whatever. You're usually not going on your own. Unless you're those other things. Unless you're hoping that you get on the Viking ride and you get splattered. But more often than not, you're going with like family, friends, a partner. And when you get there, the thought that you could get on this ride comfortably and be like, oh, this is going to be fun. As if it wasn't just set up by some drug addict carny and some teenagers a few hours ago. And they're like, whatever. And they just let it ride out. It just blows my mind how anyone could do that. I have nothing against drug addicts or carnies or teenagers. But all those things combined definitely make me weary of rides, of anything that if any of those people are doing anything that involves mechanics, like a roller coaster ride, or anything that's a death machine metal contraption, or cooking food. I mean, I just don't really trust you. Sorry, but that's the way it has to be. I don't trust regular amusement parks with my life in those death machines, let alone drug addict carnies and teenagers. I don't trust anyone. And sometimes that's the way it has to be. You think back to when you're a little kid and things seem okay back then, and then you get older, you become more paranoid. Sometimes you think maybe I'm more cynical or nihilistic. Maybe you're just being more realistic about things. It's hard to say sometimes. But that's the way it has to be as an adult. Sometimes you really have to step out of the past. Sometimes you just have to get away. Sometimes you just have to wake up. You 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 have to wake up. Because that is episode 17 of At All Hours. Thank you guys for listening. And hopefully I see you guys again in the next one. Hopefully you stick around until season 2. It's coming up. It's right around the corner, bitch. Little bitch. Okay? But thanks for guys for listening for everything that I'm saying. Okay, bye.